Hello everyone, I am Janine Ilisan and welcome to my video presentation. So for this video, I will be discussing about currency depreciation. So first, what is currency depreciation? Currency depreciation is a fall in the value of a currency in terms of its exchange rate versus other currencies. And it was seen due to economic fundamentals, interest rate differentials, political instability, and risk aversion among investors. Countries with weak economic fundamentals such as chronic current account deficits and high rates of inflation generally have depreciating currencies. Currency depreciation, if orderly and gradual, improves a nation's export competitiveness and may improve its trade deficit over time. But an abrupt and sizable currency depreciation may scare foreign investors who fear the currency may fall further, leading them to pull portfolio investments out of the country. These actions will put further downward pressure on the currency. While currency, on the other hand, means that a currency depreciates with respect to another when its value falls in terms of the other. The dollar depreciates with respect to the yen if the yen over the dollar exchange rate falls. Note that if the yen over the dollar rate rises, then it's reciprocal. The dollar over the yen rate will fall. Since the dollar over the yen rate represents the value of the yen in terms of dollars, this would mean that when the dollar appreciates with respect to the yen must depreciate with respect to the dollar. The rate appreciation or depreciation is the percentage change in the value of currency over some period. Let me give you an example. The US dollar to the Canadian dollar. On January 6, 2010, the Canadian dollar over US dollar is equal to 1.03, while on January 6, 2009, the Canadian dollar over the US dollar is equal to 1.19. All we have to do is to use the percentage change formula, which can be calculated by new value minus old value, and the result will be divided by old value. Substituting the values would look like this. 1.03 minus 1.19, that is negative 0.16, divided by 1.19 is equal to negative 0.134. Multiply the result by 100 to write as a percentage to get negative 13.4%. Therefore, we have calculated the change in the value of the US dollar value in terms of Canadian dollar. And since the percentage change is negative, this means that the dollar has depreciated by 13.4% with respect to the Canadian dollar during the previous year. However, there are still other exchange rate terms, which are the following. We have the arbitrage, spot exchange rate, and the forward exchange rate. Arbitrage generally means buying a product when its price is low and then reselling it after its price rises in order to make a profit. Currency arbitrage means buying a currency in one market, like say for example New York, at a low price and reselling moments later in another market, let's say for example London, at a higher price. Spot exchange rate refers to the exchange rate that prevails on the spot, that is, for trades to take place immediately. Technically, it is for trades that occur within 2 days, while the forward exchange rate refers to the rate that appears in a contract to exchange currencies either 30, 60, 90, or 180 days in the future. Now let's move on to the currency devaluation and its effect. Devaluation is an official change in the value of a country's currency relative to other currencies under the phenomenon of fixed exchange rate. Whereas in floating exchange rate system, currency depreciation results as changes in market forces. Loosening of the monetary policy results in the increase of selling the domestic currency for other currencies. This leads for domestic currency devaluation. And domestic producers and exporters are the main beneficiaries of this action. There are two implications of devaluation. First, devaluation makes the exports of the country cheaper for foreigners. Second, it makes imported goods expensive for domestic consumers, which discourages the imports. Currency depreciation is caused by several factors. including easy monetary policy and excessive inflation. A variance from the interest rate that the market expects can also trigger currency depreciation. To combat inflation, central banks will boost interest rates as too much inflation could lead to currency devaluation. Inflation can also raise the cost of export inputs, lowering the competitiveness of a country's exports in international markets. The trade imbalance will grow, and the currency will devalue as a result. Sudden currency decline, particularly in developing economies, always raises fears, in which most of these currencies become plagued by similar investor concerns. Causes of currency depreciation. Depreciation of a currency can happen for a variety of reasons. Changes in inflation rates, political instability, and other economic variables are all examples. The most common causes of currency depreciation are lower export revenues, surging imports, lowered interest rates on the monetary policy, intervention by the central bank, currency sold by the traders and speculators in the market, economic conditions. The value of a country's currency falls when worldwide demand for its exports is low. Similarly, if a country imports a disproportionately large number of products and has a trade imbalance, its currency depreciates. Any big economic news that is unfavorable might cause a currency's value to fall. If significant industries or firms post bad profits, a currency's value may fall in expectation of difficult economic times forthcoming. Monetary policy. Each country's central bank establishes economic policies that affect the currency value in the short term and contribute to long-term trends. In general, rising interest rates to combat inflation put downward pressure on a country's currency. Some governments employ interest rate restrictions to reduce the relative worth of their currencies in the international market. Global market conditions. The global economy as a whole has an impact on currencies in specific regions. For example, should the US dollar appreciate for reasons of economic welfare in the US, the rupee value in India depresses relative to it. Similarly, a recession in India triggers rupee depreciation against currencies of developed and other developing nations. Political events. Currency depreciation can be caused by fear of uncertainty about the country's political stability, as investors assess the investments the country will have to make sustain against a prolonged conflict of war. Even when certain political parties gain power in a nation, the currency may devalue due to the incoming administration's planned objectives. What are the effects of currency depreciation? A currency exchange rate represents the value of one currency against another. The majority of exchange rate quotes are in US dollars. For example, the value of the rupee is benchmarked against the US dollar, that is, $1 is equal to 74.94 of rupee as of 6th October 2021. Countries like China and the Republic of Congo follow a fixed exchange rate system where the government decides the depreciation and the revaluation of its money. At the same time, market forces dictate currency depreciation or appreciation under a floating exchange rate system, such as in countries like India and the United States of America. The decrease in the value also impacts bonds, equities, mutual funds, and other assets, which is known as devaluation or depreciation. Increased import prices might drive up local inflation if the currency rate depreciates. Investors would want greater returns to compensate for inflation, and the central bank would be expected to boost interest rates to combat inflation, pushing interest rates further higher. Because bond prices and interest rates are inversely related, a currency's crash or a sudden drop in the currency might also result in a bond market crash. A weakening or declining dollar raises the exchange rate for sales and earnings in foreign currencies. A low rupee might benefit exporters such as manufacturing firms by making their products more competitive in international markets. Yields and stock prices may rise as a result of this. Import prices, on the other hand, will increase, resulting in inflation. So now, what are the advantages of currency depreciation? First, exports are less expensive. Currency depreciation lowers the cost of exporting to overseas markets. A rise in export demand can lead to increased productivity and the development of new jobs in a country to fulfill export demand. The second one is the debt pressures are eased. Currency depreciation allows a country with a large amount of sovereign debt to decrease its debt throughout time, making it less expensive. So now let's move on to the disadvantages of currency depreciation. Exports are more cost-effective and competitive. The value of exporting to foreign markets is reduced due to currency depreciation. Growth in export markets can lead to higher productivity and new employment in the nation to meet export demand. The second one, debt burdens are reduced. Currency depreciation enables the government with a significant amount of sovereign debt to gradually reduce its borrowing and lower costs during the term. The fundamental benefit of depreciation, according to the theory, is that it supports exports. Intuitively, this assertion may be accurate. The pricing of exported goods become more competitive when the value of currency decreases. This benefits domestic exporters, which benefits the entire economy as a whole. This kind of thinking leaves out several crucial factors. First, exporting is not the end goal. People sell things to the other nations not because they like amazing foreign currency, but rather so that they can later purchase or import goods from elsewhere. Weak currency makes no difference in that. Consider this incident. When our currency is weaker, purchasing something from overseas requires more of our money. Second, a sizable portion of exports involve the importation of raw materials or semi-finished items. For instance, if a vehicle manufacturer wants to build and sell cars, it must first import some of the parts from foreign suppliers, and if the home currency is weaker, their price in the domestic currency will be greater. As we can see, assertions that the value of the wet currency is favorable for exports are at best gross oversimplifications and at worst errors. Weak currency, as said, increases the cost of imports. The world economy is a network of interconnected vessels. Increased prices for raw materials and intermediate products may at least partially offset any alleged profits for more exports that result from a weak currency. Devaluation often is criticized as an inflationary monetary policy because it raises the domestic price of imports. The underlying cause of inflation is not devaluation, however, but rather excess money creation. Nonetheless, devaluation is an unpopular policy, especially in small countries that are extremely dependent on imports as a source of food and other necessities. When the prices of imports are increased, it results in the increase of demand for domestic products. Devaluation results in inflation. If this is the situation, the government should have to increase the interest rates to control inflation.
Devaluation and economic well-being. Currency depreciation affects the social welfare as well, which depends upon real GDP and the rate of unemployment. If there is unemployment along with a high trade deficit, then currency depreciation unambiguously raises welfare, even though the price level rises and inflationary pressures escalate. This is because in this case, outputs as well as employment go up, while the trade deficit disappears. On the other hand, if the nation is already at full employment, devaluation simply raises the price level, lowers aggregate spending, improves the trade balance, but has no impact on overall welfare. However, the weakest sections of society, the retirees, the minimum wage earners, the older workers, or the other, will suffer because their nominal incomes remain fixed while prices go up.